Hello students, in today's video we are going to understand the concept of cardiac cycle. Now as we all know, function of the heart is to pump the blood, and for pumping blood, cardiac muscles that are found in the wall of heart rhythmically contract and relax. So this rhythmic contraction and relaxation of the heart muscles is called as heartbeat. Now, on an average, our heart beats 74 times per minute. That means the heart contracts and relaxes around 74 times in a minute. So, the sequence of events that occur during one heartbeat is called as cardiac cycle. And one heartbeat corresponds to one cardiac cycle. Now, on an average, there are 74 beats per minute. So, this means that in a minute, there are around 74 cardiac cycles. So, one cardiac cycle is equal to 0.8 second. So, the duration of one complete cardiac cycle is 0.8 second. Now, each cardiac cycle consists of three phases. Atrial systole, that is a contraction of both the atrias. Then ventricular systole, that is the contraction of both the ventricles. Now, contraction of atria and the ventricles is followed by complete cardiac diastole, that is a relaxation of both atria and both ventricles. Now, let's discuss and understand each one of these phases of cardiac cycle with the help of a diagram. Now, look at this chart. These three diagrams of heart represent three phases of cardiac cycle. Now here it is very important to understand that systole means contraction. During systole, cardiac muscles that are found in the wall of heart, they contract. And when the cardiac muscles contract, the heart pumps blood. Whereas diastole means relaxation. During diastole, the cardiac muscles, they relax and the heart is filled with the blood. So, this is the meaning of systole. Systole means contraction and diastole means relaxation. Now, another very important thing. Now, here red color of the blood signifies that the blood is oxygenated, while the blue color signifies that the blood is deoxygenated. Now, as you can see here, three phases of cardiac cycle are atrial systole, then atrial systole is followed by the ventricular systole, and ventricular systole is followed by the complete cardiac diastole. Now, this figure represents atrial systole. Systole means contraction of the atria. Now, this phase lasts for about 0.1 second. Now, these atrioventricular valves, they open. And when the atria contract, the blood in the atria is pumped into their respective ventricles. Now, this atrial systole is followed by the ventricular systole. Now, ventricular systole means the contraction of ventricles. Now, during this phase, these atrioventricular valves, they close. Now, contraction of right ventricle pumps the deoxygenated blood into the pulmonary arteries. And pulmonary arteries carry this deoxygenated blood to the lungs for oxygenation. On the other side, contraction of the left ventricle pumps the blood into aorta, and aorta further circulates this oxygenated blood. It further supplies this oxygenated blood to all the tissues of the body. So, contraction of the ventricle pushes the blood into the blood vessels. Contraction of left ventricle pumps the blood into aorta, whereas contraction of right ventricle pumps the blood into the pulmonary arteries. Now, ventricular systole is followed by the complete cardiac diastole. Now, this phase lasts for 0.4 second, and during this phase, the muscles of the heart, muscles that are found in the wall of heart, so these cardiac muscles, they relax. And during the relaxation, cardiac muscles recover and they prepare themselves for the next contraction. And during this phase, during the relaxation of heart, both the atria, they relax and they are filled with the blood. Now this right atrium, it receives deoxygenated blood from superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. While this left atrium, it receives oxygenated blood from the pulmonary veins. So during the complete cardiac diastole, both the atria, they are filled with the blood. Now due to the continuous filling of the blood, pressure rises. These atrioventricular valves, they get open, and around 70% of this blood, it passes into the ventricles. So during the diastole, these atria, they are filled with the blood, and around 70% of the blood of atria passes into the ventricle. And this complete cardiac diastole is again followed by the atrial systole. So the rest 30% of the blood that was left behind in the atria, that is pumped into the ventricles during the atrial systole. So this is all about the cardiac cycle, the three phases of the cardiac cycle: atrial systole, where the atria contract and the blood is pumped into the ventricles; then ventricular systole, where the ventricle contracts and the blood is pumped into the pulmonary artery from the right ventricle, and the blood is pumped from the left ventricle into the aorta; and complete cardiac diastole, where the cardiac muscles relax. Both the atria, they are filled with the blood, and around 70% of the blood that comes to the atria passes into the ventricle. This is followed by the atrial systole, where remaining 30% of the blood in the atria is pumped into the ventricles. So this is all about the cardiac cycle. If you find the video useful, kindly like, subscribe and share this video. Thanks for watching this video.